I think in developing my ePortfolio, I really got the chance to sort of set my mind in the teaching, research, and service sort of paradigm that goes along with academia. As I sorted through and organized my documents and my pictures and links that I had, and I displayed it visually, it really helped me see how everything I've done in my graduate career is placed into one of those three categories. So I think just mentally that was very, very helpful for me, and it really helped prepare me for my job interviews.
Now I have an online presence, and I found that this was very helpful when entering the academic job search. For instance, I have all my teaching statement, my research statement, all the relevant documents that most people look for are online, and I kind of make it more interactive, so I have my publication list, but links to the actual articles, you know, just different imagery that wouldn't be captured in my CV, and more of a personal narrative. And I think this really helps to, you know, make my CV come alive in that sense, and maybe give me an advantage when entering the job search.
I was able to easily provide other resources beyond what was included in the initial call for employment, where if they asked for things like a teaching and research statement, those were given, but also I was able to include some of my teaching materials. You know, I had things like rubrics, syllabi, I had some projects that I had developed for previous courses, as well as some other teaching materials for courses that I was a TA for. So that was really easy to show, as well as links to my publications, things that were accessible online through PDF that employers were able to read and see.
My ePortfolio reflects that I have put a lot more thought into my teaching methods and what I do in the classroom, and how I assign grades, and then how I evaluate my own performance and how my students are doing in terms of like grade inflation and things like that.
When I was thinking about creating my portfolio, I looked at my CV and I looked at the key sections what I had on my CV, and then I structured my ePortfolio around these key sections while making it more personal. So my ePortfolio is focused on research, teaching, and service, and I also have a section about my awards and recognitions and contact information.
The first page of my ePortfolio, when I introduced myself, I gave a little bit of a background as to who I am and why I love climatology and why I love weather and why I'm such a weather nerd. And they really seem to connect with sort of that personal story, that personal explanation of myself. I would say that's the #1 comment, positive comment that they had.
Okay, so my teaching effectiveness section, I just took my student evaluations from previous semesters and kind of figured out, well, what are my students telling me about my teaching? So what aspects are good, what aspects are bad. So I had a lot of positive comments, like my TA was helpful, you know, my TA knows the subject matter, but then there are also some negative comments, and for instance, you know, the instructor does not always have clear expectations. And one thing I wanted to convey when writing my teaching effectiveness was that I'm using this information to kind of go forward and improve in the future.
I feel like the piece that's the most developed is my teaching philosophy page. I feel like it very clearly shows how I teach, why I do what I do. Although that probably is something that a lot of other candidates also do very well. In terms of the process of developing the ePortfolio, the language that I've developed, the vocabulary that I've developed, my ability to engage in what we call elevator speak or casual conversation, little 3-minute conversations with people that I'm walking across campus with. I feel like the process of developing the portfolio has prepared me to use that sort of language and to make the transition from a graduate student to a professional. Within my teaching philosophy and my teaching effectiveness pages, where I describe what I do and then some demonstration that what I do is effective, I have 3 subpages, and those are the 3 elements of teaching that I've had described to me in the HETC program. Those are learning goals, methods and activities, and then tools and assessments, or ways that I assess whether learning is actually happening. And so within each section of, say, teaching philosophy and then goals, I describe what I think learning should be and how that's defined. And then same sort of thing in the assessment page, I talk about why I test the way I do, the types of questions that I use. I have a current events project, and I talk about the value of that current events project in accomplishing the learning goals.
So I have a link specific to my research projects, and so I list all research projects that I did through my research assistantship here at UD, through the University Transportation Center, and I have them organized by year. And then underneath each project, I have a brief description of what that entailed, and then following that is the link to the document or the product that resulted from that research project. And then those links directly go to my publications page, and then that's where you can find all of the resources as well.
What I feel is my strongest part of the ePortfolio is my service section, and I think this is because I was really able to go beyond what I could include in a curriculum vitae. I feel very passionately about public outreach and public education, specifically to grade school age children. And in my ePortfolio, I was able to include pictures. I work with the Delaware Science Olympiad, so I was able to have links to sample tests that we used for the middle school exam. And I was also able to discuss just my love and my passion of introducing science to children and teaching them about what climatology is and what I do. So that's something that you can go way beyond just a line in your CV, and it really will help whoever's looking at your ePortfolio get to know who you are as a scientist and what you care about.
So I started out by fairly rigid research-based description of me as a scholar, and then I went back to this and I thought a little bit of logic behind it. Instead of talking about my research and classes I've taught, I also mentioned how I got to this point. I was looking back when I was an undergraduate student, how did I became interested in political science, international relations, then how did I develop that, and while I was an undergraduate student, and then when I came to grad school, what was the process, how I ended up writing my dissertation about mobilization in certain migrant community.
The faculty members that have looked at my ePortfolio, as well as some of my colleagues at other universities, has all been very, very positive. They really were interested in how I did it, and if I could show them how to make an ePortfolio too. Especially all of the links to documents that I had, or example syllabi, or exercises, and pictures. I made a point of including as many pictures, relevant pictures, as I could. So the feedback was all very, very positive.
I found it useful when I applied to jobs and postdocs. For example, one particular postdoc I applied for asked you to provide a link to a writing sample. They didn't want an actual copy, electronic or paper, they wanted a link. So then I could upload something to my portfolio, link it from there. When I did one of my job interviews for an academic position, I actually uploaded my job presentation as a separate link on my portfolio, so I could go there and link it from there. Also, always in my cover letter, I provide a link to my portfolio and talk about how they can find more information about various aspects of me as a scholar there.
My advisor was really excited to see me working on something that's really kind of new and upcoming. She was very helpful in terms of providing feedback and said, this type of ePortfolio is exactly what interviewers and employers need in the process to decide who to pick, because really all of the written documents normally look really hard to tell them apart, but when somebody has an ePortfolio, this is where the 21st century is going, having that kind of immediate accessibility to that person and seeing their personality show through.